It's the Best Damn Sports Show podcast with your hosts, Jason Cahill and Bernie Kim.
Welcome to the Best Damn Sports Show podcast. I'm Jason Cahill.
I'm Bernie.
Bernie, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. Not bad.
This is going to be a good podcast, hopefully for everybody, but specifically for you and I, because one of our favorite shows is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And we've got the creator of that show and one of the lead actors, Rob McElhenney, on the show today.
He is. He's coming in studio. I love it when we have the in studio guests.
Yeah, he's one of two in studio guests we've had, him and Big Show. So it's always pretty cool when they come in here. He's standing right outside our audio bay right now, waiting to come in.
Chomping at the bit.
It's like there's a hallway outside the audio bay. That's like our green room. We have people wait out in the hall, and then we bring them in.
Yeah.
Although we didn't really do that with Big Show a few weeks ago.
He just does what he wants.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no. Whatever he wants to do.
He wanted to come in and sit on the couch while we did the top of the podcast. So that's, can't really say no to him. So we had a real fun week at Best Damn. A couple of things I want to bring up. We had Jay Cutler, quarterback of the Denver Broncos, on remote, and it's not every day that you get a professional athlete calling out another professional athlete. But Jay Cutler did that. He really called out Phillip Rivers. He said he didn't like him, and he said that he didn't like the way he carries himself on the field.
I mean, if you watch a game between those guys, they're always jawing at each other. I mean, it's not like they're hiding it on the field, but he just, he let did he let loose on him? Would you say he let loose on him?
I think more so than I've heard any other current athlete talk about any other current athlete.
It was good.
The funny thing about that is that we almost didn't even ask that question.
I can't believe that.
But one of our producers, Joel, is from San Diego, knows the whole history between Phillip Rivers and Jay Cutler. He said, no, you guys really need to ask him about that. And, boy, he was right.
Hey, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I also asked the producer to ask that question. But there you go.
Yeah, so that definitely produced one of the better moments. I'm going to say in Best Damn history, because in 7 years, I don't think that I've heard anybody call out anybody else like that.
Because it's tough in these interviews. Athletes are very guarded. They don't want to say anything,
right,
too off the beaten path, So it's great when they do. It's great. We had another moment years ago where Corey Dillon called out, I can't remember who, but it was great.
Yeah, one of his linemen, though.
Was it a lineman?
It was a lineman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way.
This was Jay Cutler calling out Phillip Rivers, two quarterbacks at the top of their game in the same division, which I thought was pretty cool. And another cool thing about Jay Cutler also, we asked him about the whole John Elway thing. He said he can throw the ball. He had a better arm than John Elway, can throw the ball further. He didn't back off from that. He doesn't apologize. Most athletes would come on here and say, yeah, you know what, that was kind of taken out of context. I didn't really mean it that way. All due respect to John Elway. No, he's like, hey, I said it, and I'm not apologizing.
I didn't like that part of it.
Why not?
Because, why is that necessary to say, or why can't you just be respectful?
Here's the thing. I'm not saying it's necessary to say. I'm saying I appreciate the fact that he didn't come on and apologize for it. I hate, my biggest pet peeve is when athletes say something and they take it back 10 hours later.
Right, okay. I see what you're saying, but I don't know.
Say it and stick to it. And that's exactly what he did, which I kind of dug.
I'm all right with the River stuff, not all right with the Elway stuff.
Hey, so some other guests that we had on this week, we had Brooke Burke.
Oh, yeah. Wild on and
the
Dancing with the
Brooke
Stars.
Burke. Yeah, she broke a board with her fist.
Yeah. I was actually her stand-in in rehearsal, and I actually got to break the board.
Did you really?
Yeah, it hurt a little more than I thought it would.
Hang on, you broke a board with your fist?
I did.
Had you ever done that before?
I've never done it before, and I did it. And
did you do it with your knuckles, or you do it with the bottom of your palm?
I was thinking which one to do.
Because she did it with the bottom of her palm.
Oh, no, I did it with the knuckles, because I thought that was
probably more dangerous.
Yeah, I know, but it was a little manlier.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so I wanted to do it with my fist, and I did it, and I thought it would be totally painless. I would say it smarted for about 20 seconds after I did it, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I'd never done that before.
Wow, good for you, Bernie.
Oh, thank you.
I'm impressed.
Thanks. Don't mess with me.
No, I'm not going to.
Fists.
Phil Hellmuth, poker player Phil Hellmuth, was on the show.
Came on in shorts.
He came on wearing shorts. He did. He said something interesting to me in the green room. He said, we were talking about, he said, I was out last night. I didn't get home until 5 in the morning. I said, what were you doing? And he said, me and Scotty Ian, who is the guitar player for Anthrax, and now also a poker player, were out, and they ran into Slash. And Slash couldn't have been more excited to see Phil Hellmuth, and they had dinner together, and then they ended up playing poker that night. But he said to me that it's looking like poker players are celebrities to celebrities.
Well, yeah, because everyone watches poker now, right? And everyone thinks they can play poker. Anyone who's half intelligent and and is competitive thinks they can play poker. So yeah, I can see where he's coming from.
By the way, you're not such a fan of Phil Hellmuth.
I don't like the way he acts.
Because I know you're a big poker player, and I told you that he was here and in the green room. I said, "Oh, do you want to come and say hello to Phil Hellmuth?" And you said no.
Well, here's the thing: we had Annie Duke on a couple months ago, and they were promoting the Best Damn Poker Show, and they had their altercations on screen. And I thought maybe that's just trumped up for the TV. They're just playing a dramatic angle. And I had asked her about it, and she said, I was still so angry at him that I haven't talked to him since. And that just, it's one thing to be a character, to be the poker brat on air, but then off camera you can be like, look, sorry, I got carried away. But it doesn't seem like there's that remorse at all. I feel like he's just acting the way he wants to without any consequence. I don't really like that. And I'm watching some of the World Series stuff, and I don't like it when he talks down to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about his antics, but I will say this. I've produced a number of his segments. I mean, he's been on Best Damn maybe like 5 or 6 times. He's a very nice guy. He has a very enlarged view of himself.
Yeah.
So, I would think that most athletes would, though.
I suppose.
He thinks he's the best. He thinks that he's worthy of all this acclaim.
Right, but, Mike Matusow is a guy that talks a lot of trash and has a lot of fun at the table, and he's demeaning to other players. But I find him very likable.
But
Mike
Matusow hasn't won 11 World Series.
That's true. That's true. But I think in the poker game, he's as respected, among the top pros.
Sure.
Mike and Phil are interchangeable among respect.
I think he's a good guy, but I can see where he'd rub you the wrong way.
Hey, I'm not saying, he's not a nice guy. I don't know him. I've never talked to him, but I don't really care to talk to him.
By the way, one of the real funny moments that happened backstage at Best Damn this week. I don't know if you saw this, Bernie, but Chris Rose, our host, I guess he was having back problems. Kind of had a stiff neck, stiff back. So John Sally comes up behind him and he says, trust me, I know exactly what I'm doing. I got the remedy for you. And he does one of these things where he puts his arm around Chris, and he lifts him up off the ground. You hear Rose's back crack.
Yeah, that's a back crack, yeah.
And then he takes his head and he twists it all the way left and all the way right, and you hear it crack each time. And it looked like the most painful thing I've ever seen. And all I kept thinking was that John Sally is not a chiropractor, and Rose is sitting there and letting him just manhandle him.
And did it work? What did Rose say afterwards?
It looked like he was in pain afterwards.
I mean, I've got my back cracked a few times. That's comfortable. I mean, it's good after you do it. It's
comfortable?
Well, it's not comfortable. That's a poor choice of words. It loosens you up.
Yeah.
Before wrestling matches, the coach used to crack my back, and it would get me ready to go.
You wrestled?
I did. I was a captain.
Really?
Captain of a wrestling team.
I'm learning a lot about you in this podcast.
In fact, my first year, I went 13-10 with 10 forfeit victories.
What does that mean? They see you across the mat and they said, I'm not wrestling that guy?
I wrestled at 103 my sophomore year, and the other team did not have anyone at that weight class, so I'd get the automatic win. So I went 3-10, and then 10 free wins.
Well, what's funny is I tell people that I fenced which is true, I fenced when I was in high school, and I was 29th in Nassau County, which is on Long Island.
Yeah.
And the reason that I was 29th in Nassau County is because there was a tournament of 30 people. I came in 29th, and the person who came in 30th was a girl, the only girl fencer, and I beat her.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
And then I dated her.
Did you really?
I really did.
How does that work? You beat her and then you kept talking? How does that work?
It was one of those weekend-long competitions. You travel to another school, you stay overnight in some cheesy hotel. And, she went to some rival Long Island high school.
You chatted her up, huh?
I chatted her up, yeah.
And how long did that relationship last?
3 days.
3 days?
Yeah. The length of the weekend.
Is it one of those things where you actually go out on a date, or is it just like a relationship in name only?
We never really went out on a date.
But you were like, hey, I'm into you, and she's like, okay.
Back in high school, did you really ever go out on a date? It wasn't like you were taking girls to dinner.
Right, but you do hang out at some point. Well, I think the middle school thing was where you ask somebody out in homeroom, and by third period it's over.
Yeah, this is one of those things. Maybe we went to see a movie, but there was some hanging out involved.
That's cool.
We are straying far off course on this podcast.
I'm more interested in the fencing. I think it's great. Love from fencing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Hey, so why don't we get to our guest?
Let's do it.
He's waiting out in the hallway. Let's bring him in. He is the star of and creator of one of the funniest shows on television. He is Rob McElhenney. Rob, welcome to the Best Damn Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
I'm excited to be here.
It's not every day we get in-studio guests on the podcast.
Really?
You're the second that we've had.
That's really? I'm
2
setting a
weeks ago we had
precedent
Big Show. You know Big Show from the WWE?
I'm not saying that you're a small guy, but there's a sizable difference between
Rob and Big Show?
Big Show.
here. Yeah, well, you're screaming. You're screaming.
Yeah, why are you
into the
yelling?
microphone.
Why are you yelling, Bernie?
I'm a loud guy.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Well, it was the arms.
You're overmodulating your voice.
Oh, I'm
Kind
sorry.
of keep it down.
But anyway, he filled up the entire two-seater couch,
Did you really?
whereas you fit snugly on the one side
Well,
like
his
a
name.
normal person
I'm
should.
also leaning though. I think
okay.
maybe I can make it.
I feel like you're insinuating something about Rob.
No, I'm just saying Big Show is enormous. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's an enormous guy.
He's a very large man.
Hey, so congrats, Phillies, World Series.
Yeah.
How about that?
I was at the game.
Oh, you were there
I was at
last
the game.
night.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was
Now,
amazing.
where are your seats at the game? I know where my seats are. Where are you sitting?
Yeah, I sat right behind Charlie Manuel. I was literally right behind.
So you were in the dugout.
I was right behind the dugout.
Yeah.
And we were actually in the second row behind the dugout, and then some Dodger fans were nice enough to leave early, and give us the seats while we took them.
Now, do you wear like Philly paraphernalia? You wearing like a Phillies hat or something?
Yeah. Well, I went to the game. Unfortunately, I also went to the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I did the starting lineup for the Phillies. And
That's right. You kind of jinxed them.
I did a little bit,
Yeah.
and I thought about that because I had been to a few of the games out here when they got swept, and I started to think that I was a bit of a mush, a little bit of a bad luck. But then it turns out that the entire plan for the universe and the design of the universe, it's not centered on me.
Oh, I see.
It turns out.
Huh.
Yeah, it turns out. So I felt like the hopes and dreams of every member of that team and the ability or lack of ability would have more to do with the outcome of the game than my presence.
Did you see any of the Philly, the news feeds from Philly about all the streets of Philadelphia last night? It looked pretty crazy.
No, I didn't. But it was pretty crazy in Dodger Stadium. I mean, there was a lot of Philly fans that stuck around.
So when you're sitting there wearing your Phillies hat, you don't hear it from the Dodger fans?
Yeah, but you know what? I noticed this year, especially this year, more so in the past, that more and more people are recognizing me from the show, and it's our demographic.
Yeah.
It's the same people that are going to see baseball games are watching our show, and that helps because I think it's a little bit different. So people might give me a hard time, but I think it's in a different way than they're.
It's because you're a big Hollywood celeb now.
I guess
not
so.
because you have a Philly hat on.
Well, instead of like somebody giving me and can I say that on
Sure,
the podcast?
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Giving me and then punching me in the face, he would give me and then offer me a beer. So there's a big difference.
Or hand you a headshot, right?
Yeah.
Have you been punched in the face at games before?
No, but it's gotten close. I mean,
Yeah.
Philly is a rough place to go. I wouldn't recommend anybody going and rooting for the opposing team in Philadelphia. But Dodger Stadium I found to be a pretty friendly place. But there are certain sections.
Yeah,
that
see, where you were sitting, fan-friendly, family-friendly.
Yeah.
But I was there on
Bleachers.
Sunday as well, and where I was sitting, not family or fan-friendly.
No.
And
I've heard that. In fact, there are a few guys that I know that I was with last night that were sitting elsewhere, and they said that they had some issues. But that's what happens when you lose.
Exactly. Hey, so what's with the haircut, by the way?
Yeah. I cut my hair off.
Yeah, it's almost all gone. I mean, is that for a
I'm
roll?
No. In fact, I'm gonna reshave it. It's starting to grow back a little bit. I got married, and then I just decided I wanted to shave my hair off.
Was that a condition of getting married that you had to shave your hair off?
Well, the condition was that the wedding would not go on if I shaved my hair before the wedding.
Right.
So I waited till after the wedding and then shaved it.
So for those that watch the show, you married your co-star, Caitlin Olsen. Now, is that weird? Because you're the boss. Now your wife is your employee, right?
That's right.
Is that a weird dynamic?
No, only because we've been doing it now we've been dating. And when I say doing it, I mean banging.
Yes.
We've been doing the dating employer thing for about 3.5 years. I mean, ever since like around season 2, the end of season 2. So we kind of got it down at this point.
Yeah. So let's talk about the show.
Yeah.
4th season. Would you consider it, and I would consider it, the funniest season yet? You must be pretty happy with the way things are going?
Yeah, season 4 to me is my favorite season. It was the most difficult and presented the most amount of challenges because of the writer's strike. Danny had a movie that he was prepping, he had to get early, and Caitlin actually broke her back at one point,
Wow,
which
how'd you
is
do that?
crazy. On the 4th of July, she was enjoying some spirits and was dicking around and fell. Somebody lifted her up into the air, and she fell, and she was horizontal,
Yeah.
and she slipped off the back of his fingertips and landed on the asphalt,
Oh.
the concrete, and broke her sacrum, which is the bone right below your vertebrae.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's,
it was pretty wild. It was wild. I mean, like she had a broken back, and she healed amazingly fast. We went down for only a month, and then she came back up and was able to work, but not really move for like another few weeks, and then she healed pretty quickly.
Wow. Hey, so talk about the idea for the show and how it was created.
Originally,
Yeah.
going into the past, son of a. This is like 5 years later now.
We'll make something up.
All right. I was sitting on a pot of gold, and I said, I'm so sick of being so successful and so rich. And I was living in Reykjavik, Iceland. Are you familiar with Reykjavik?
Of course, I was there on New Year's.
Were you?
I was. It was
right. So it's
fantastic.
beautiful.
I went to
beautiful
college there,
place.
actually.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are familiar.
Yeah.
So I was actually married to 3 or 4 different women at the time, and I said, I'm sick of this. I want to go do TV. So I made up this stupid show, and it turns out other people liked it, and we shot it, and here we were, season 4.
Well, there you
I
go.
can't wait to get back to Reykjavik.
Well, it's a lot of fun. There was some good bars around. I'm actually being serious. I really was there for New Year's. It was great.
I've heard it's amazing.
Seriously?
Yeah, I was there. It was great. But we're getting it.
Well, hang on. What were you doing there for New Year's?
I got a hot tip that it's a fun place to be. And it was hot because Quentin Tarantino was there.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Was he shooting?
No, I guess he just goes every year for New Year's. He loves it.
Wow.
And he was there.
Well, there
They
you
do a
go.
lot of filming there. I believe Clint Eastwood has shot there.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. But now we're way off topic and talk about Iceland. But no, but you mentioned DeVito earlier. How did he get involved with the show? He fits in so well with you guys.
Well, when we were going into our second season, Danny, we found out that Danny was a fan of the show, and we were a very small show on a very small network in the middle of the night, and we needed to bolster ratings, essentially. And I just went over to his house, and I said, hey, I heard you're a fan of our show, and we're thinking about adding a character. And
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
So you knew where Danny DeVito lived? You showed up and knocked on his door?
Not exactly.
You'd met him before?
I had never met him before. No, I'd never met him before.
Did he know you were coming over?
He did.
Okay.
He did know I was coming over. John Landgraf, who runs FX, used to work with Danny at Jersey Film,
Right.
Jersey Television. And so they had a previous relationship. And John actually suggested Danny and said, hey, Danny's a fan of the show. So I said, well, can you get a meeting with me and him? And he said, yeah, why don't you go over to his house? And they said, it, let's do it. So within like a couple of days, I went over to his house and just, we hung out and talked about the show. And I think hours later, he signed on.
That's great. Talk about, over the years, how the censors have gotten involved in your show, because watching season 4, it seems like you guys are taking a little bit more chances than you have in previous seasons, and you're doing things that I can't imagine FX would let you get away with, and yet they're letting you get away with it.
Yeah, it's interesting because our barometer is off now because we've been doing the show for so long, and it's easy to start to lose sight of what is, I don't want to say normal, but what is, what's out there, because we're looking at it and going, well, we're not doing anything that we're not all talking about or joking about, with our friends, so or with people. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder when people come up and say, oh, you guys, I can't believe you guys get away with the stuff you get away with on TV. And I'm like, well, this is no different than what we're all joking about and talking about when we're all hanging out in the bars or like talking about with your friends or your family or whatever. And it just so happens that you can't do it on television. And that never really made any sense to us. Like, well, why can't we do what we're talking about, behind closed doors in a more public forum? Because we don't really feel like we're being offensive. Some people might find it that way, but most people are uptight.
I don't think anything you do is offensive. I think that I agree in that. I watch the show and I'm shocked at the stuff that like you said, you're getting away with the glory hole episode.
The shadow of a phallus on the wall. But how did you describe it? I remember you told me the story earlier.
Well, I believe this in script form. It was the shadow of a very large, engorged penis. And I spoke with the good people over at Standards who said we're going to have a little bit of an issue with some of the, and I wound up just changing the terminology, and then when we actually saw it, because we didn't see the specific contours, I think we were okay. Our argument is always, well, and I know that this is across the board, the easiest argument to make, but it's still the one that makes the most sense to me. I have a dick. So do you. So does our engineer. So does every man who's not deformed on the planet. And you're telling me that I can't show that on TV? I don't get it.
Do you get a lot of letters? Are there a lot of angry people?
No. I think that what happens is that people assume that a lot of people are upset with us. But it's not the case. We find that most people get the joke. And I used to be surprised when I would talk to people who a lot of people would think wouldn't be fans of the show. Older people, elderly people. We have like politicians, senators, that I get letters from that say how much they love the show. People in all walks and fields of life, and we realize, oh, you get what we're doing. You get what we're doing. We're not just making, for lack of a better word, dick jokes or poop jokes. It's not just that. There is something to it.
So is there a topic that's off limits? Have you guys come up with an idea for a show and said, oh, you know what, we probably can't even do that? Is there a line anywhere?
Well, yes, there is a line, but the line isn't that simple. The line for us is when something isn't funny. And generally when something isn't funny to us, it's when it's offensive for being offensive's sake, for being abusive for being abusive's sake, mean or cruel to the wrong people or groups of people. That to me is the line, and there is no rule for that. It's not like, oh well, we won't do this. It's like you have to get more specific. It's not black and white. To me, like last year, one of people's favorite episodes was Sweet D Dates a Retarded Person. Now, to me, being mean or cruel or abusive to or about retarded people is not funny, and there's nothing funny about that. That's deplorable and sad. But if you notice in the episode, the only people that come out looking despicable are us.
That's like every episode, though, right?
Yeah, that's what we're going for. That's exactly what we're going for. And I think that some people, anybody who watches the show gets that. Anybody who doesn't watch the show or hears about it from their friends or just kind of glances at it, then they're being lazy and they just form an opinion and they don't really know what the they're talking about, and we don't care about them.
I think it was last season, there's an episode, The Gang Gets Invincible, you guys shot for the Eagles, which was actually the first time I had ever seen any parts of the show. You were actually coming on to promote the show, and we had a clip where Donovan McNabb is supposed to show up, and it's actually Elvin from The Cosby Show, which I thought was the funniest clip in clip history, because I started watching from that point, and I haven't stopped watching.
That is true. We get people on all the time, and they bring their clips with them, and the clips, 9 times out of 10,
terrible.
They're terrible.
Awful.
They suck, and you never laugh at them, but that's the one clip.
This got me to start watching the show. Now, why did you decide on Elvin? I mean, it was the perfect character, because he's hilarious. Everyone knows Elvin. But
well, that was like a happy accident. I mean, originally we tried to get Donovan McNabb. And Donovan McNabb's agent was not being helpful. But then I wound up, and this was like 2.5 years ago now. Then I was talking to Jeff Garcia's agent. Then Jeff came by the set, and he was going to do it. And then literally they didn't pick up his option like that week, and he got traded, or he got picked up by Tampa, right?
Yeah,
Tampa Bay, yeah. And we thought that would have been great if it was Jeff Garcia, who at that point, who had just finished out the season, and took him to the
everybody loved him.
Everybody loved him, and we loved Donovan too, but we really embraced Garcia, and then that kind of all fell apart, and then we thought, well, wait, maybe it's funnier if it's just a guy that they sell as Donovan McNabb, and we had auditions. And he came in for an audition, and we were like, "Oh my God, is that Alvin from The Cosby Show?" and it was, and we were like, "Okay, well, we got it."
You got your guy.
Which pretty much were your lines in the episode.
Yeah.
Wait, that's Elvin.
But that's where a lot of the show comes from, which is like real life, like joking around and.
Yeah, so speaking of, how much, is there a lot of improvisation on the set? Do you guys have a complete script and then you kind of change it up as you're doing your scenes?
Yeah, we have full scripts for everything that we beat out and beat into the ground, and we work and work and work and work, so that if we were to do it line by line, it would be funny and we could air it. But then we get into a room, and me, Glenn, and Charlie go through the scripts and really perfect them. But then when we get them on their feet, on the set with all the actors, things change and things don't work, or things work better, and then we just make adjustments. And so sometimes you'll see a scene that's exactly the way we scripted it, and sometimes it has nothing to do with the script.
What are some of the shows out right now that you watch and you're like, man, that's really funny. They get it. Or are there shows like that right now?
Oh yeah. I would say, like, anytime Sarah Palin speaks, I always find that really funny. I think Flight of the Conchords is hilarious.
Oh, it's another one of our favorites.
Yeah, Flight of the Conchords is unbelievable. I think 30 Rock is really funny. I'm really into, obviously Family Guy is super funny. South Park.
Have you seen Life and Times of Tim on HBO?
No, I have not. I have not seen that yet. Is it great?
So funny.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, super funny.
Hey, when you go back to Philly, are you like a rock star now?
I wouldn't say rock star, but our recognizability has definitely increased.
The thing is with Philly, it's such a proud town. I think there's like a little bit of a chip on the shoulder kind of mentality. We worked with a guy who is hardcore Philly, and he liked watching your show. And I think he only started because you guys put Philadelphia in the title. And I think this is from the outsider's perspective that Philly people like when they have positive attention poured on them. So are they just really gung-ho behind your show?
Yeah, it seems that way. Definitely we are more famous in Philadelphia than we are anywhere else. And I think that does have a lot to do with it. And the city's just really cool. And I think that they like that that's where I'm from, too. And we go back there and shoot, and we include the city, and we have a lot of fans in terms of local press there, which is really helpful, and local media. And, even just going to the Phillies game last night, at the end of it, when all the Philly fans stayed to watch the celebration, and that's a good majority of them were fans of Sonny as well.
That's great. So you have your favorite episodes?
No, I definitely have favorite seasons. This is my favorite season. This season 4. Like I was getting into earlier, it was the most difficult to execute, but ultimately, I think we finally hit our stride in terms of the right mix of acting and writing, and going for it, but not getting too broad and too silly, which I thought we did a little bit in season 3. We started to just get a little too ridiculous, and we wanted to bring it back and make it a little bit more grounded in season 4.
Do you guys feel like you are at all like your characters?
Yes. Insofar as, like, I think that there are aspects of everybody that are in these characters, although there are definitely inflated aspects of, I would say that my character is a pretty angry person. At the same time, everybody carries a certain amount of anger. We just kind of hold it back. He doesn't hold it back.
And you have a lot of hot chicks on this year, is that right? Is there an inordinate amount of hot chicks this year than any other year?
Yeah. There's definitely more attractive women that have been scantily clad in this particular season.
That's probably why I think it's the best season.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people do.
Specifically the episode where they had the modeling competition.
Oh, it's fantastic. When you're interviewing those girls, they're all smoking hot.
They were very attractive and very, very funny.
So you've had, over the years, you guys have had great guest stars and cool recurring characters, actors and actresses that everybody recognizes that come on all the time. Is there one in particular that you've always been wanting to have on the show and either might happen soon or hasn't happened yet but you're hoping will?
In terms of actors or characters? No, not necessarily. I'm doing this new show right now, and I literally just got out of a meeting with Carl Weathers.
Oh, wow.
And that was awesome.
Wow.
Really awesome.
Is he going to be a regular cast member? Or
well, we're talking about
it. This is boldly going nowhere.
Boldly going nowhere.
Yeah, which sounds fantastic.
Yeah. We're in the casting process right now, and I don't know. He's just a part of the conversation. But I literally just got out of the meeting with him, and he was so unbelievably cool.
Did you watch Arrested Development?
Oh, yeah.
When he was on,
Yeah.
I mean, he was fantastic.
So funny.
And
So
just,
funny.
I like guys that have a sense of humor and don't have to take themselves so seriously.
Yeah.
As in, he was playing himself, but obviously he was a huge caricature of himself, which is fantastic.
And Happy Gilmore, which is,
Oh, yeah.
and he's just very, he's very considerate, and clearly a compassionate and really nice, down to earth guy, but also really cool.
Yeah.
Like
Action
really
Jackson.
cool. Yeah, Action Jackson.
So when
Apollo
is it-
Creed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course.
When's that show coming out?
Not sure. We're going to shoot the pilot in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, which is unfortunate because the World Series is starting, and
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be able to get to go, just because the timing's not going to work out, which
Right.
is really lame. But hopefully we'll be on the air next year.
And this one's for Big Fox.
This is for Big Fox.
That's great. I heard it described as The Office in outer space.
I try to stay away from that. I think it's a show. It's like nothing you've ever seen. It's a show that takes place in the future, but describing it in terms of shows that everybody already knows, I think, is unfair. I mean, we still get described as Seinfeld on crack, which I think.
Yeah, that's on your Wikipedia page.
Yeah, which is frustrating because, I mean, Seinfeld is like one of the greatest shows in the history of television, and whilst it's nice to be compared to a show like that, it's certainly unfair for us because how do you live up to that?
Right.
It also is not right. I mean, we're not. I don't think we're anything like Seinfeld, except that our characters are deplorable. But there are deplorable characters. Look at Entourage.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the Hollywood thing to do, right? You have to make it to a common denominator.
I think it's just easier for simple consumption. So instead of people really taking the time to figure out what the show is, they just say, oh, well, they write it off as, oh, well, this is what it is, and it has to be a buzzword. It has to be a, I mean, you look at like politics, it's the same thing. I mean, that's what it's breaking down to. It's one line elections.
Yeah. By the way, have you been to your Wikipedia page recently?
No.
The picture of you on the Wikipedia page is a picture of you and some guy from Comic-Con.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just like some guy who probably took the picture with his camera phone or something, and that's the picture that's
Is
of
it
you.
good? How do we
It's
look?
It's
We
not
look good?
bad. Yeah, you look better.
camera phone.
You look better than the guy to your left.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's not a bad one.
Well, that's the funniest thing about Wikipedia, and I love that we all do it when we're looking for information on a particular subject. The first place we go to is the internet and Wikipedia, of course, right?
pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's always pretty accurate. User based.
Yeah.
None of it are actual facts. I mean, you could go on there and write, Rob McElhenney has a 13-inch penis, and then send it in, and that's what I got. And if you do that, I'm not saying that.
You just winked at me, so you're
Right.
suggesting that you'd like us to
Possibly.
do that. Yeah.
Someone listening today will do that.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Hey, so before we let you go, Lost. How
Yes.
did you get involved in Lost? You were on one episode.
It was.
How'd that-
I'm still
how'd that happen?
waiting for my phone call to go back. That was a great.
you weren't killed or
experience.
anything.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Well, Damon Lindelof, who runs the show, is a friend of mine, and he is a fan of Sunny, and that's how we met. We met through these two writers who write for Lost, and they got him involved in Sunny and watching Sunny, and then it turns out all the writers started watching Sunny, which was great for me because I was a huge fan of Lost. So I came down and met with them one day, and Damon said, "Hey, if you ever want us to write you something, we will." And I said, "Okay," and they did, and so I spent a week in Hawaii, and
That's pretty cool.
Not
Yeah.
bad at all.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong. I remember that your character was guarding a hatch.
I was.
Is that right?
I was.
Yeah.
I was guarding somebody's boyfriend, the chick's boyfriend who was
Yeah.
being brainwashed, who wound up getting iced. Anyway,
The chick or the boyfriend?
the boyfriend.
Yeah.
I think she lived.
Well, listen, thank you for dropping by
Thank you.
on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, this
We love
is
having
great.
you on the show. We
So
love having
easy.
you on the podcast. Please come again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks,
All
guys.
right, Rob, take care.
Thanks.
Well, there he is, Rob McElhenney.
And that guy's great. He is,
you know what? I got to say, I implore people who have not seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they really, really must check it out. It's Thursday nights on FX. It's such a funny show.
There's like 3 scenes every time where I'm just belly laughing and I have
Yeah.
to rewind because I'm laughing so hard.
There's only a few shows on TV now that really have me laughing out loud. I mentioned Life and Times of Tim, that animated show that's now on HBO. That's really funny. But this is one of the only other ones where I sit there and I laugh all throughout. It's great.
Consistently funny, and I'm just very glad that he came on the show last year, and I saw that clip, and now I started watching.
Yeah, it's a great show, so please do check it out. What a good podcast.
Yeah,
I like the
solid.
trend of getting in-studio guests for the
In-studio
podcast.
guests.
It's much better than speakerphone.
Oh, yeah, it's much better.
Yeah, and by the way, our guests over the last couple of weeks, Artie Lang, Big Show, Rob McElhenney, they brought it.
Of course. That's what you get on this podcast. And now we're getting on-air love. We're getting...
Unless you happen to be listening when Baron Davis was a guest.
All right, well, it's okay. There's hit and miss.
That being the only 11-minute podcast we did.
That's okay. Hit and miss.
And what about Tim Lincecum right before that?
I wasn't here that weekend. Or that
that's
week.
right.
I was away that week.
Yeah,
so.
Zeus was filling in for you. He was pretty terrible.
Well, he's a great pitcher.
He's a great pitcher. He wasn't a great interview. And then,
he's young. The young guys don't get media.
Yeah, we'll give him time.
He'll be fine.
All right, well, there you go, Bernie. Another good podcast. Hey, if you want to email us, it's bestdampodcast@yahoo.com. Send us your email.
Yeah, but don't go nuts because the inbox is really overflowed. We're backlogged with emails.
We are back. I've got about 20 emails that I've yet to respond to, so I apologize. If you sent us an email and it's not been responded to yet, I will get to it. I will get to each and every one.
There's a good chance that if you send us an email, it'll get kicked back because our mailbox is full.
That is true.
So be careful.
So don't be discouraged.
Nope.
Please keep sending them. bestdampodcast@yahoo.com. You could even get an autographed picture of me and Bernie.
Oh, do we even have a picture of me and you together?
No.
That we could sign.
We have one of me, you, and Big Show.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We could sign that.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
sure.
if you're interested, send us an email and we'll send you that picture of me, Bernie, and the Big Show.
Cool.
All right, until next week, I'm Jason.
And I'm Bernie.
See you then.
Later.